Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Bayou Sugar Garden. I am Bayou Sugar and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome in. If not, welcome back. Thank you guys for being here. And while you are here, please remember to hit that like button. Share me out just in case someone does not receive the notification that I am live. And also feel free to comment while you are here. This is an open-ended conversation as always, and this is not just about my views, but we learn from each other, being able to see someone else's perspective, and it opens up your mind to different views. Ooh, that's a whole lot of light. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate all of you. If you are catching the replay, one time for you for catching the replay. Don't forget to leave me a comment. If you're watching the replay, let me know that you've been here. And I do respond to my comments. If you are in the chat in the comments, Lord have mercy, I can't even think. If you are in the bushes, one time for those who are in the bushes. Thank you for those who are here in the bushes. And I am currently live on Facebook and YouTube. So, one time for those who are on Facebook, I appreciate you. And let me acknowledge those who are live here in the chat communicating with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. One time for my Renaissance grandma, always first, nevertheless. She told me on the last live, she said she'd get here so she can catch my intro music. She loves my intro song. So thank you for being here, my Renaissance grandma. Wanda Carr Jones, welcome in. Thank you for being here. And those two, along with a whole bunch of others, are participating in our hashtag natural sugar lifestyle change. What we're doing is we've changed our life a long time ago, a few weeks ago, and we decided to dedicate the rest of our lives for as much as we can changing what we eat by not incorporating um without incorporating added sugar. So, and we've also included lowering our carb counts. So, we do no natural sugar as much as possible. We're turning around our labels and reading them, making sure it doesn't have any added sugar, not just saying sugar in it, but those other words that they use for sugar. So, we're looking for that. And we're doing that because we're trying to be a more healthier version of ourselves and eliminate diseases that are not caused by us, diseases that are caused because they're adding things into the food that we're eating. We want to make the decision of whether we want those things in our food or not. And so that's why we encourage you guys to grow your own stuff so that you know what is in there. Broke Farmer is in the building. One time for Broke Farmer. Welcome in. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, Broke Farmer. I appreciate you. And Broke Farmer was doing the coconut water when we started we were brainstorming about our natural sugar and incorporating things. And he was really the first person that tested out the coconut water to see if it works. And he said it works. And so I tried it after he did it, and it works. For me, it keeps me hydrated, as the research found, and it keeps me regular. I have regular bowel movements now. I don't have to worry about that no more. So, Laura Spencer, welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Miss Sonia, welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You guys know that it's snuggle season, or whatever you want to call a holiday Valentine's coming up. Get at my lady right here, just gifted. She got some nice baskets and they be full and they worth the price that she charges. If you need to get your little boo thing, your snuggums or your honey boo or whatever you want to call them, get them something nice. Holla at Miss Sonia. She gonna hook you up and she ships. Okay, she ships. Excuse me. She shipped your package. So if you got a boo that you need to send something on Valentine's Day, get at her. And if you got your little boo Napolis across the country, you need to send him or her something, because the day after Valentine's Day is the Valentine's Day for side chicks or side pieces, so they say. You need to ship them something. Get at Miss Sonia so you won't be in trouble. So I thank y'all for being here. I appreciate all of you. So this is gonna be just a tad bit heavy. Um, but I want you guys to be aware of some things, something that was downloaded to me today, and I wanted to get it to you guys. You're welcome, Miss Sonia, no problem. Tempest Creek Homestead and more. Welcome in, welcome in. Keep your eyes on the road. Temple Creek goes live Monday through Friday as well. And she usually goes live like 8:15, 8:30-ish Eastern time. So get her. Is it 8:15 or 9:15? I might be getting you and Central Time mixed up. I might be getting y'all mixed up. Let me see. I'm gonna go to her page so we'll know. Because I know she got a thumbnail posted. Last night they did movie night and they watched everybody watched the movie before, and then what they did was, yeah, it's right, 8:15 Eastern time. So that's right. So last night they did a movie night where they picked the movie and everybody watched it ahead of time, and then they discussed it. And it was pretty good. I listened in. I didn't watch the movie, but I listened in. So y'all check out Tempest Creek Homestead and more. Broke Farmer say side chick Valentine's Day is diabolical. I can hear you in my head saying that. What they, I mean, it could be just, a friend that you appreciate, your work husband, your work wife, or whatever. You got to send them something. You know how people do. It's some diabolical people in this world. Oh, you at home? 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay, Tampa is 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Fridays. Okay, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. You welcome, Tampa. So, y'all, the purpose of this show tonight, not tonight, today, is because, um, as I'm out doing whatever I'm doing with my plants in my garden, and I'm looking at YouTube videos, checking out my YouTube people and family and everything, things that come across my mind that I feel like I need to share with you guys, I do that. And today, being that we have been talking about trying to get healthy and doing all that we can on our part to be healthy and make the right decisions, I came across a video that our community member did, Drell's Healing Garden. If you guys don't know Drell, you may want to check her out. She recently was living in the South, and I'm not going to give all her business. You got to go to her page and find out exactly where she was and where she is now. I ain't going to tell you. You got to go over there and check out Drell's Healing Garden. She just dropped the video early this morning while probably most of us was sleeping. Well, it wasn't a video. She went live probably while most of us was sleeping, but it was daytime during her time. And I happened to catch that video, and in the video, she was explaining the health changes that she have experienced. And that made me so happy for her to hear that, because I knew where she was and how she explained to us on her page her journey and what she's suffering with, and how her garden was her way of trying to maintain her healthiness. And so in her video, you'll have to go and watch it. She explains to us her discovery of her health from where she was and where she is now. And so that sparked this conversation for me, just to let us know that we have to be aware of what's going on, whether you believe it or not, whether you want to know or not, but you have an obligation, if you're choosing to grow your own food and you're sharing this food not only with yourself but with your family and other people around you. And then if you have a plan to spread it even further from outside of just your immediate family, but to your community, your neighbors, and everyone else. And if you want to share those things that you're growing, you have to be aware of things that are going on, whether you want to say that it's um, conspiracy theory or whether you believe that it's going on or not. You have to know these things for yourself, and you need to be aware so that if someone comes to you and try to ask you questions about something, your response shouldn't be, well, that's just conspiracy theory. You need to have proof that, your products or your vegetables or the things that you're growing is not going to affect someone's family or them physically, and make them sick unknowingly. If you watched the live yesterday, you will see that a lot of that is going on, where there are some forms out there, and possibly in all of the, well, not possibly, but in all of the food and things that we use, that there are chemicals in there that causes physical ailments. And we don't want to be a part of that. We want to do what is right. Miss Sonia said Valentine's, Galentine's, just because whatever you want to call it. Yep, that's whatever you want to call it. Sugar, when you get a chance, take a picture of the picture behind you and please send it to me. Okay, I sure will. I definitely will. And thank you, Tampa, for reminding everyone to hit that like button. I would appreciate it. So, in connection, after I finished watching that video with Drell, um, let me see if I can pull her. I'm gonna drop the link to that video. Um, Let me go to it. So, in watching that video, something else popped up for me, and that's what I want to share with you guys today. Let me put that video in here. Copy the link. Give me 1 second. Let me post it in this chat for y'all. Okay, I posted that in the chat. And while I'm at it, let me go ahead and post the link in the chat in case anybody wants to come up and discuss anything that we're talking about or respond to anything that we're talking about. And I'm going to pin that at the top. So just in case we get to talking, it goes away. So I posted 2 links in the chat. The one is for Drell's video in case you want to get an update on how she's doing and what she got going on. And go and listen to her other videos where she shares. You got to go back and listen to a couple of her videos where she shares her physical things that she has going on with her body and how she used her garden to combat that, and then what she has going on now. So fast forward to now. Um, I was watching a video about climate change and all of this, and how a lot of us shut down people who say the government can control the weather and they can make it do this, make it do that, and we like to say that that's conspiracy theory. Just as if just as we have said a lot of other things with conspiracy theory about them poisoning our food, about them, um, you know, GMO making meat in the lab, and all these seeds being GMO seeds and lab manufactured things, just as all of those things at one point were conspiracy theory. Well, we can't really totally wash away who's controlling the weather. As much as we all may believe in a higher power, that they that higher power controls, makes it the seasons and all of that, we all know that human beings think that they are above the higher power and think that they are the higher power, and so they try to develop things to control what they think they can control. So to some extent, they develop things to make it look like that they have control over it, but in their mind they controlling it, but really they're not controlling it. They're really just making it worse, and they haven't realized that. But what I'm going to share with you today is I just want you guys to be aware of geoengineering. And I want you to be aware of that because we're growing things and in an environment that we have no control over. And if geoengineering is going on, it affects what you're growing. And it affects it to the point to where whatever's being put into the air, into the atmosphere, into your environment is being drawn in through those plants and things that you're growing, and we're ingesting it. And so you have to be aware that these things are going on and what you can do to help safeguard yourself to a certain extent so that you won't have to worry about if you're causing harm to yourself or someone else. So I just want to bring awareness and make sure that you guys are aware that, you know, these things are happening, however you want to look at it, as it's happening, or it's a possibility of happening, or it's a theory that's happening. But I just want to offer you, hey, Bridezelle, welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. One time for Bride. Welcome in, Netta's Nest. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Oh, you got off early. Look at you, Netta. I know that feel good, good. Thank you for being here. So I want to offer this information to you guys because for me, in my life, I've lived a long time. I was brought up in Christianity, and we used what they call parables in the Bible to help you live live life the right way. And those parables, of course, they provide you with morals and lessons and things that you can apply to your life. Well, as I got older, those parables that they told, they had to be um, tailored to what was going on in my life. Like back then, they were stoning people for doing stuff. Well, they're not doing that now. So that parable, you wouldn't take it as the literal sense. You would take it and tailor it to what's going on right now. And, not saying people being stoned, they're being punished. Well, not in my part of the world. They're not. There are still consequences for your actions, so you wouldn't take them for the literal meaning. So at some point in my life, I'm like, okay, I understand that these stories are being passed down and I'm supposed to take from these stories and apply it to my life, but I need somebody that's going through what I've been going through current time and tell me how they got over, how they made it over. And so that's why I try to encourage people to tell their testimonies, because there are people out there in the world who can't understand and can't comprehend things that are being told to them using a story that happened thousands of times, thousands of years ago. Tell me how what happened for you. Tell me how good God is, how you know good God is based on what you've experienced. Don't tell me what Paul experienced. Don't tell me what John experienced. Don't tell me what Judas did. Don't tell me what John the Baptist did. Don't tell me what Gandhi did. Don't tell me what Buddha did. How do you know for yourself that you know that your higher power works? And so that's why I come today, is to tell you to go and look at Drell's video, because we have real-time proof, and not just Drell. It's a bunch of people in our community that have testimonies, that have told, and have some have not told, but it's a couple of them in here who have told their testimonies that gives you proof in real time that things are happening. And not only are they happening, they tell you how they combat with them, how they, try to maneuver through it. And then some of them, you're able to see them on the other side, how they got over it. So in real time, real today time, you have those people with those testimonies and those stories. So I encourage you, if you have not told your testimony, or it are not standing on the mountain shouting to the rooftop telling what's going on in your area and how you are fighting it in your area, do it, because it's going to help somebody that's going through the same thing that you're going through, so they can be able to come through on the other side, and it'll encourage them to tell what they going through, and then eventually we all will be able to figure this out together. So that's why I'm doing this geoclimate thing, because for me, it's not a conspiracy theory, especially when I heard Drell's testimony. And when I came across this video today that I'm about to show y'all, it's real. I mean, they may not be able to control every aspect of the weather, but manipulation is going on. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's going on. Broke says police nightsticks or stones, same thing. Yeah, just change. They just remanufacture the weapon, but it's the same thing. Yep, you're right. Same thing. So I just need you guys to be aware, be very aware, because if you're doing this gardening thing, and we're trying to make the world better, you have to know. You cannot walk around oblivious to the fact. What's going on, Catherine Jackson? Welcome in. Thank you for being here. And I just need you to have an open mind, and just take a look and just listen. And I'm not trying to persuade you to believe one way or another. I just want you to be aware and pay attention with an open mind, and just give it some thought. And give me some feedback too on what you got going on, what you have observed, and what you have noticed in your area. Okay, so let me share with you guys my screen. And I actually have two videos. I won't be able to share all of them with you today, but all with you, but I'm going to share parts of it, and then I just encourage you guys to go back and watch the rest at your leisure. Okay, so let me get this queued up here. Catherine, Miss Catherine, welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. One time for Miss Kathy. And one time for all my members that are here from the co-op. I appreciate all of you guys. That would be Miss Kathy is one of our members. Laura's Garden is one of our members. Renaissance Grandma is one of our members and our vice president. Um, let's see. Oh, look, another one of my members came in. Homesteader Rachel, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you guys. Okay, so let's get started with this video. Well, that's not it. Okay, here we go. Sorry, y'all. I didn't transfer that over to the scene. Give me 1 second. Let me rewind it. Because I was playing it, thought y'all could hear it, but you can't. Okay, so let me redo this. Welcome in, David Core with the crop. Welcome in, cropper, cropper, cropper. One time for David. Here we go, y'all.
Big issue that we have with conspiracy theory folks is that they sort of conflate things that don't really go together. So they conflate cloud seeding with hurricane modification.
Or chemtrails.
That too.
Was Hurricane path the result of natural processes, or was it?
Every time that there's a major weather event, it could be fires in Hawaii or a superstorm coast or tornadoes in Oklahoma, internet goes ballistic with ideas that the government is controlling the weather.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced the federal government is literally controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous.
Which at first sounds nuts, and a lot of it is, but weather modification itself is not nuts.
There's a new sense of possibility. Perhaps we are approaching an era where weather modification will not just be an interesting laboratory experiment.
In fact, there are companies actively developing technologies, from cloud seeding to fixed droughts.
Flares are shooting millions of silver iodide and calcium chloride particles into the cloud.
To scientists who want to reduce global warming by injecting reflective particles into the atmosphere.
Geoengineering in the atmosphere, such as injecting sulfur-based particles high in the stratosphere to reflect sunlight.
There are just enough kernels of truth in many of these theories to give credence to one of the most controversial ideas out there today, man-made manipulation of the weather.
The best way to debunk a conspiracy is asking follow-up questions.
Now, weather modification is a large and complicated topic with a history that stretches back over a century. And like a lot of issues we cover on this show, it has recently become a polarizing topic because the facts seem to change based on who you're talking to. So today we're going to talk to three different people with three distinctly different points of view. One is a proponent that governments or unknown parties are actively controlling the weather. Another is a Harvard-educated meteorologist who believes that is patently false. And a third is an entrepreneur who's testified in front of state governments because he believes misinformation is leading to bans on potentially beneficial technology. We'll begin with the creator of countless viral videos that allege to track geoengineering, Dane Wigington.
They're implementing another work platform again.
Don't they have better ways to waste our time?
We found love in a hopeless place. We found love in an open space.
This AI is so easy.
All right, here we go. Dane Wigington. I'm just going to get into your bona fides here. You have a background in solar energy, former employee at Bechtel, last 20 years of your life devoted to research on this. Now, I've done a little bit of reporting on geoengineering.
No technologies come without the potential for misuse. That is, some country tries to make more rain in one place and that makes it worse for somebody else. That's a realistic fear.
Obviously, you've done a lot more. You've done 20 years of this. But let's go back and do a primer, because there's a lot of things where people believe, in something, but they don't know the givens. They don't know where it comes from. They don't know the definition, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories around stuff. So what is the textbook definition of geoengineering?
There's a number of terms that refer to these processes: solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement. All of this refers to dispersing light scattering particles into the atmosphere in the stated attempt to deflect some of the sun's incoming thermal energy to slow down the warming of the planet. There are processes of climate engineering that most, even who think they're aware of this subject, are not aware of. Chemical ice nucleation, cloud seeding creates a surface cool down, a chemical cool down, and these processes were openly announced, for example, in China. If listeners search Chinese scientists create artificial snowstorm, they'll find Popular Science covered it, The Guardian, MSNBC, CNN, routinely creating a frozen precipitation event out of what should have been a liquid precipitation event.
So let's get into that, the history of this stuff. So we've got 1947, Project Cirrus, which scientists first attempt to modify a hurricane.
We will learn to put the finger on the trigger that releases climatic change, that changes the patterns of storms.
1962, Project Skywalker, cloud seeding. 62 to 83, Project Storm Fury, a series of hurricane modification experiments. Operation Popeye, probably the most well-known, was rainfall during Vietnam to extend monsoon. The DoD said was successful. So maybe you could give us a couple of, well-documented, projects that sort of set up the history of it, and then we'll get into what the hell's going on today.
I think you just did. And if we look at one other example, in the case of Iran, we had the leader of that country on the floor of the UN stating emphatically that NATO was cutting off the precipitation to their country.
Two cases that come to mind more recently. One is the recent floods in Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
The land of sand has become a world of water,
where they openly admit to doing cloud seeding and weather manipulation, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the desert.
Thunderstorms brought the most extreme rainfall on record, and there were reports of several deaths.
If I could elaborate on that, they admitted to it before they denied it. And so they initially admitted to it, and then they tried to walk it back as hard as they could.
Most people had initially blamed the excessive rainfall on the process of cloud seeding. But scientists say that this was not the actual reason. Rather, it's the climate change that caused an extreme weather system to develop over the region.
Also, they have, I believe, an Office of Climate Engineering. They have, that the government pays for.
They do.
Yeah. So the other one, speaking of Iran not having rain, which sounds a bit crazy, but China was doing experiments with rainfall within China.
Firing rockets into the clouds and hoping for rain. These meteorology workers in China's Hubei province are participating in a 3-month project.
That led to a drought in India, and then India went to the UN and said, hey, hold on a second, we're not getting any rain. China's stealing our rain. So there are lots of precedents. There's been a long history of manipulation of the weather by government, supranational entities, etc. That's safe to say, right?
Very.
Okay. So right now, there's a lot of speculation, as I'm sure you're aware more than most, about the latest back-to-back hurricanes in Florida and, how they came out of, seemingly nowhere. The President of the United States saying, oh, sure, haha, we can control the weather.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman of Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop.
Maybe you could sort of give us what the basis of these theories are.
What we stand on at geoengineeringwatch.org is what we can validate, what we can prove. So in regard to the spawning of a storm, we can't prove that. And certainly the oceans are scaldingly hot, fully logical that they would create cyclonic rotations. We would expect that. But when we have installations like HARP in Alaska, and that's only one example of an ionosphere heater that we know have specific effects on the atmosphere that can, in the case of HARP, transmit 3.6 million watts of power into the electrically charged ionosphere, heating it to extraordinarily high temperatures, causing the atmosphere to expand up and down, and even all the way back to the patent holder, Bernard Eastland, that fully acknowledged the ability of these installations to manipulate atmospheric pressure zones. So in theory, it's certainly logical to conclude that the climate engineers could create the conditions that are most conducive to spawn a storm.
I wanted to get into, because you also reference it, HARP, which is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. You know, a lot of people reference HARP, and you referenced it yourself. You know, maybe just explain for the audience what HARP is.
I hope the audience takes the time to look this up, because this is even the images of this facility, which we're told is a benign research facility. And we would argue it's anything but benign. We would argue HARP is a very covert weapon of mass destruction. And if we look at what this installation can likely do, let's backtrack to, Shane, you remember the extreme aurora event from about 3+ months ago?
Yes.
So is it just a coincidence that 10 days prior to that event, the HARP installation issued warnings for the FAA for all air traffic to stay out of their airspace during the exact window when this aurora event took place? Is that just a coincidence?
So HARP is still functioning?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I had to pause right there because, and just to say this, how many of you in the chat have heard of HARP? Put a 1 in the chat if you have heard of HARP. HAARP, HARP. And I'll wait for a second. And the reason why I asked about this because I've heard about it a couple of years ago. It's been some time, over 5 years ago. And when I first started hearing about it, and other people around me that knew about it, they were saying, "Oh, that's conspiracy theory. That's conspiracy theory." Okay, for those of you that have heard of it, when you first heard of it, if you just assumed it was conspiracy theory, put a thumbs up in the chat. Because I did. I didn't believe it. I was like, because they was like, they using that to control the weather to do that. They can't do that. They don't have technology to do that. But very openly, this guy, this scientist, not the interviewer, but the scientist that the guy is interviewing has provided with us several forms of information that shows that geoengineering is definitely a thing, and HARP is definitely a facility, and it's supposedly was shut down. It may be shut down, the facility here in the US, but they still have one that's fully functioning and operating in Alaska. So I just want to let y'all know that you can't just shut down people. You might want to listen to them in their entirety before you shut them down and not listen to it. Miss Rachel says, I didn't think they couldn't, but apparently it's true. Yep. And if you think about what's going on present day, we don't even have to go. If somebody tells you something about what we're discussing now, you don't have to go back and look years ago to get proof. Look at what's going on right now, and then you tell me if you still don't believe.
Absolutely. The notion that happened in, I think, 2016, that they were going to shut it down and bulldoze it, tear it down, and it's changing watch.org. We stated not going to happen. This is.
And I forgot to say this point, because the reporter said about the stuff that's happening in Dubai, that at first that the people who caused it, the flood, denied it and said it was because of global warming that the flooding occurred. But then they came back and admitted that, it happened because of something they did. I don't want you guys to get confused that global warming is definitely a thing, and it's definitely going to happen no matter what we do. But some of this that's going on is man-made, and it's not all global warming. You have to be aware of that, and you have to be able to decipher between the two. That's what I want you guys to be aware of. Don't just write off everything as, oh, it's just the earth trying to correct itself. It's nothing that we intentionally did, or nothing that man did. This is just the earth. This is just global warming. Some of it is not global warming. David says, how long I've been saying they control the weather? Since 1952, they have admitted it. Yep. But we like to turn a blind eye. We like to turn a blind eye, even if we see things in writing. Some of us will say, oh, that's not true. That's fake news. That's false news. Somebody made that up. So I just want you to be aware, whether you believe it now or not. I just want you to be aware, just in case something comes back on you. They try to pin something on you and say this person is sick, or this happened to this person because of something you gave them. You need to be aware of what's going on, so they cannot pinpoint stuff on you and say that it's because of what you did. Family, you got to be aware.
It's all a big sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors. That installation isn't going anywhere, and it didn't. It's still operational now.
Still operational.
Absolutely. So again, and that's only one installation. There are other designs.
What would it do?
It transmits 3.6 million watts of power into the electrically charged ionosphere. It creates an electrical chain reaction. So even with that minimal input, and 3.6 million watts of power may sound like a lot, but atmospherically speaking, it's not. But when you cause this electrical chain reaction, it becomes a lot. And so the temperatures that HAARP can heat the ionosphere to are extraordinarily high over vast areas, 400 and 500 square miles.
And what's its stated purpose? What does the government say it's supposed to be doing?
Hey, you know you're not actually allowed to drink in a beer commercial? Since when?
To study the Aurora Borealis
phenomenon.
Phenomenon, yes, thank you. Raytheon ended up with a patent for that installation.
So hold on, Raytheon has a patent for HAARP?
I think they bought the patent from the original patent holders.
At Raytheon's advanced technology business, breakthroughs are just the beginning. It's your mission that's the true catalyst, fueling the future of defense. We are Raytheon Advanced Technology.
So in theory, it's certainly logical to conclude that climate engineers could create the conditions that are most conducive to spawn a storm. Now, in regard to hurricane suppression, if we go back to actually Project Cirrus, even the very minimal amount of input, because this argument was made over and over, Shane, that the hurricane has so much energy, there's no way you could inflict enough input to alter whatever its behavior was. And that simply doesn't stand up to science, because Project Cirrus, with I believe less than 100 pounds of materials distributed into that storm, it was believed at the time that it changed the course of that storm, so much so that there was litigation pending, and then they walked back their conclusions of what actually happened in that case, and they seemed to want to go underground then after that. So if that was indeed possible with such a minimal input, what can aircraft do now when a KC-135 can carry 100 tons of material? And let's add the frequency transmissions, which are patented processes of being able to manipulate air masses. All of this a part of the equation.
So just to go back, Project Cirrus, 1947, scientists first attempt to modify a hurricane specifically by flying into a cyclone and dropping dry ice. And so now, obviously, we're much more sophisticated. We have the ability to drop a lot more stuff. So if that was successful, theoretically, it's possible that we could go in, modify hurricanes. Now, why? Why would we do that? What's the motive, if you will?
First, I would give a little context in this, and that we don't try to speculate on the agendas and objectives because we can't know that. I know a lot of people are doing exactly that, but we don't enter that fray. When we know the U.S. military, according to the Washington Post, as far back as 1977, the U.S. military had conducted no less than 239 open-air biological experiments on innocent, unknowing U.S. civilians. Why would they do that? And in regard to being able to manipulate the weather, again, I would refer to and you've probably seen this, Shane, that the 1962 recording of Lyndon Johnson, former U.S. president, ranting like a lunatic, stating on the record, we had the power to control the world's cloud layer then, and quote, he who controls the weather controls the world.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
So this is, we would argue, the crown jewel covert weapon of the controllers, in that they can bring populations to their knees without those populations ever even knowing they're under assault.
So let's get into the 1,000-pound elephant in the room. Chemtrails obviously have been at the forefront of this topic for a long time.
Okay, before we get into the chemtrails, before we switch into the weather, let me recognize what my Renaissance grandma says. She says there are quite a few things that's going on now that years ago, if we heard it, we would have said that that's ridiculous. Well, not anymore. And you're right. And I wanted to add, before they switch over about talking about hurricanes, I want to add in present day time, and this is just how my brain works. So going back to my point, what I said, I want you to tell me how it works for you. What have you experienced? Don't tell me from my forefathers what happened, but I'm gonna tell you what I experienced with hurricanes. I am a native of Louisiana, right? And during hurricanes, technology has advanced so much to the point to where we have aircrafts, and I'm not going to call the name of the company that does this, but we have aircrafts that are able to fly up into the clouds, above the clouds, to see the hurricanes and fly through them to gather information and send that information, and analyze the information and send it back to us of their interpretations. You can say how fast the winds are going, how fast the hurricane is going, the wind, how much rain is going to come from it, the path of the hurricane. And it's several times during that event that they're flying through the hurricane and back out, gathering and collecting data. Not around it, they actually fly through the eye of the hurricane. They're able to get up top of the clouds and fly over it and gather information that way. So it's not far-fetched for me to believe that the government has an aircraft that could possibly fly over the hurricane and drop dry ice into it, or drop whatever into it. And whatever they drop into it have different effects on the hurricane. That's not far-fetched for me. But I just wanted to share with you my experience. Like, when there was a hurricane in Louisiana, I watched these particular people, and they give you information about what's going on, where the eye is headed, where it is right at that particular moment, what speed are the winds there, and what's going on distance of miles and miles outside of the hurricane. So think about that.
Are they real? Are they not real? If they are, what are they? Is it some form of geoengineering? That would be a pretty big conspiracy theory to keep through NDAs. What are your thoughts on chemtrails?
Well, first, we avoid that term.
Okay.
It's a non-science term. We avoid it at Geoengineering Watchdog like the plague. We stick to the climate science term, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement. When we have film footage of these aircraft at altitude, nozzles visible, turning dispersions on and off.
Liberty.
I'm going to rewind that, and I paused it right there because I'm going to rewind that so that we can know the correct terminology that they use. Because us as everyday people, layman day people, we say chemtrails, okay? Just as, let me give you the comparison. Just as with them putting sugar in our foods, they don't say sugar. They have all these different names: glucose, dextrose, multidextrose, sucralose, mannitol, all these different things, but essentially it's sugar. So with this, I want you to know the scientific name. So if somebody is talking about it and they don't say chemtrails, but they give you this elaborate name that this guy just spit out and says, to me, he's saying, we're not going to say chemtrails. We're going to call it what they call it so you'll know what it is. That's what I interpreted him saying. So if you go to somebody and say chemtrails, they're going to deny it because that's not what they call it. Say, for instance, if I come up to David Corey and I call him, "What's up, Pooh Bear?" Well, that might be what his mom and them call it, but that ain't his government name, so he can deny that. He can say, "That ain't my name." It might be one of his names, but that ain't his name. So we're going to learn the name. And I'm going to rewind it so you guys could be armed and know exactly what they're saying, okay? I think I got it on mute.
Well, first, we avoid that term.
Okay.
It's a non-science term. We avoid it at Geoengineering Watchdog like the plague. We stick to the climate science term, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud.
Okay, let me play that one more time.
Is it some form of geoengineering? That would be a pretty big conspiracy theory to keep through NDAs. What are your thoughts on chemtrails?
Well, first, we avoid that term.
Okay.
It's a non-science term. We avoid it at Geoengineering Watchdog like the plague. We stick to the climate science term, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement. When we have film footage of these aircraft at altitude, nozzles visible, turning dispersions on and off, from our perspective, that's the end of the legitimate debate. This is a spray dispersion, period. So again, what geoengineeringwatch.org has done to verify this is not just, quote, jet exhaust, and again, it's coming out of a nozzle. We have up-close photographs of the retrofit nozzles on aircraft. So we're not speculating here. And this should occur to most people that still have a functional sense of reason. You can't have grid patterns in the sky one day with all sorts of stripes over regions that there's no commercial air traffic and nothing the next with similar atmospheric patterns. Again, common sense should kick in. We have the entire global climate science community stating emphatically that we should put jets in the air to spray toxic particles to blot out the sun, and yet they tell us it's only a proposal. And again, would we think the government would ask our permission to do this? Did they ask our permission to detonate 2,400 nuclear bombs all over the globe? Did anybody ask anybody's permission on that? They just did it because they can, because no one will stop them.
So again, I ask, was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just an act of nature, or was it engineered?
Now, what we just heard are some of the central ideas that evolved from historically accurate examples of weather modification that morphed into now widespread allegations about man-made droughts, weather-controlling weaponized scientific facilities, and of course, an enduring global meme about the existence of chemtrails. Now, Dean's videos have tens of millions of cumulative views. So that there's certainly an appetite for them. But to learn the scientific counterpoint to Dean's findings,
A nasty tornado and big hail to about golf ball size moving into Hawley, Texas. Look at that thing.
we spoke to Harvard-educated meteorologist and storm chaser, Matthew Capucci. Matthew Capucci, I'm just going to get this and you tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right with any of this stuff. Atmospheric scientist, meteorologist, and storm chaser.
Yes.
Senior meteorologist at My Radar, host of the Capital Weather Gang, in quotes, podcast. Also commonly featured as a print, not commonly, but regularly. How about that? That's a better word.
I like
that. Writer for Washington Post and on air for NPR.
Yep.
Here's my fun fact, the one that I like the best, and so I put it in for myself. The only person to ever graduate from Harvard with an atmospheric sciences degree. Is that true?
Yeah, I was a little Department of One. I did what was called a special concentrate, which meant it was just me and some of my little one-on-one tutorials. The department Christmas parties were kind of lonely, but it was worth it.
So there's a lot I want to get to, and I don't even know where to begin because there's so much, but you just did it for me. Storm chasing, you're a storm chaser.
Yeah, so hurricanes and tornadoes. Tornadoes are sort of my bread and butter. Every May, so May is just a crazy busy month for tornadoes. You have the warmth of springtime clashing against the cold of winter kind of pent up in the Rockies. You have the jet stream, so a river of really fierce winds sweeping overhead, and it all kind of overlaps for like 4 or 5 weeks over Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and you just get round after round of spinning thunderstorms that produce tornadoes. And so weeks in advance, I'll start driving out there. I'll be there for the entirety of May, intercepting tornadoes at close range. You know, close enough to a tornado to have grass and insulation and debris hitting me. I've lost 6 windshields in softball-sized hail, and it's the weirdest job you can possibly imagine. But to bring viewers that close to tornadoes, to hurricanes, to all that stuff that we only hear about in the media or see online, it's amazing to use that as a classroom for people.
You are using apple cider vinegar the raw. You need to use the right.
Mr. Harvard Matthew Capucci, can you please explain the difference between a tornado and a hurricane?
Yeah, so tornadoes like that little tiny whirl of wind, and they might be, you know, a couple feet wide. They
and
might
there's
be
movies about storm chasing a tornado. Twisters, there we go. And wasn't there a recent one? There was a remake.
So the original was Twister, and they just tacked on an S, so it's Twisters, the new one. But
and you love that movie.
I love it. I love it too because the nerds are presented as like cool nerds, whereas in other movies,
you're a cool nerd.
I like to think so.
And hurricane?
Hurricane is 500,000 miles wide. Yeah, they're big. They're the ones that form in the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean and kind of move north and oftentimes impact Florida or the Gulf Coast. So chasing a hurricane is vastly different because I have to plan for days of being in a disaster area.
Yeah.
Because hurricanes are so big that they push ocean water ashore, sometimes a 20-foot storm surge or more.
Right.
You have fierce winds that might rival the wind speeds of tornadoes, causing damage, destruction to structures, and there's no real good place to position.
Have you been chasing any hurricanes this hurricane season?
Yeah, we had 5 landfalls in the U.S. I chased 4 of them. There was for Helene and for Milton and Francine down in Louisiana and Florida for the last 2. And so it's been a really busy season.
Why?
So a couple different reasons. We have a burgeoning La Nina, which favors cooler waters in the eastern tropical Pacific. And you're probably saying, who cares about the Pacific? We're talking the Atlantic here.
Sure.
Well, the Pacific, if we cool the waters, the air above it cools and starts to sink.
Right.
So you get sinking in the Pacific, the air elsewhere has to rise, so it rises over the Atlantic and makes it easier for storms to form.
Right.
Moreover, we had water temperatures running 2-3 degrees above average, which doesn't sound like that much, but that's an incredible amount of heat energy that hurricanes can extract.
Yeah. And is that why we're seeing more and more of them because of the warming of the oceans, global warming, etc.?
So interestingly, it's actually the opposite. We're seeing, thanks to climate change, fewer storms, but those we get tend to be more intense.
Sure.
But we think that as the upper atmosphere warms, we'll see fewer hurricanes, but those that form will be markedly more intense. So they'll have higher winds, they'll be certainly wetter, and they might move a little more slowly too, and be more prone to rapid intensification.
Right.
So that's not really good news for the future. The weaker ones might not form as easily, but the stronger ones will have kind of a higher ceiling.
Now, I didn't want to start this early, but I'm going to. There's a lot of people online.
Oh, yes.
Who are talking about the increased ferocity of the storms.
Yep.
and also saying like the government can affect weather, the government, that we have technology, cloud seeding, what have you. So I want to sort of start at the beginning.
Yep.
Project Cirrus in 1947. So,
Yep.
So let's just go
Yeah,
chronologically.
so Project Cirrus was back in the 1940s. 1947, they said, hey, what if we could steer the path of hurricanes?
Yes.
And so they basically went out and flew into the storm and dumped a bunch of dry ice, and they thought maybe that could change. Went the wrong way, and they realized, uh-oh, this didn't work.
So why would dry ice move anything?
Well, realistically, it wouldn't. You'd need a ton of it. You know, a single hurricane churns through 200 times more energy than the entirety of humanity produces. And so the idea that we can meaningfully affect the weather or meaningfully affect a hurricane, whether it be manipulating it, creating it, steering it, is apocryphal. But back then, we didn't really know that. And so they said, hey...
So we dumped some dry ice.
Yeah, they said, you know, let's dump some dry ice, see if we can cool the atmosphere, see if we can kind of knock it off kilter, get it to move. And it didn't do what they wanted, and they kind of ruled that theory out. So fast forward later on to Project Storm Fury in the 1960s, 1970s, so between 62 and 83.
62 and 83.
Yeah.
See, I got it, you got it. We have dueling notes.
I love it. So back then they said, you know, a hurricane is most ferocious at its core.
Yeah.
You have something called the eye wall, that innermost ring of winds that surrounds the calm eye. And this innermost ring of winds might only be, say, 10 miles wide. In the case of Milton recently, 3 miles wide. So you're packing a ton of fury into a really small area. So they said, what if we weaken the inner part of the hurricane so it kind of spreads out and weakens a little bit? So their goal was to do that by disrupting the eye wall. And they said, what if we fly into the storm and dump silver iodide, little teeny particulates, to get water and supercooled water droplets to nucleate on, to kind of coalesce on, form precipitation, form whatever, and kind of precipitate out and essentially weaken the eye wall.
And why would we want to do this?
Because if you weaken the eye wall, you weaken that inner ring of winds, the rest of the storm's kind of knocked off kilter.
Got it.
Spreads out and weakens.
So we want to be able to weaken hurricanes.
Yeah, ideally, because they're so costly, they're so destructive. I mean, I'm sure if we could hurt hurricanes, we would. Why wouldn't we? But we just don't have that technology.
So if it's coming towards Florida,
yeah,
Swiss Re is going, oh, we're going to have $42 billion worth of damage. Let's put some silver iodine in there and knock it out.
And in theory, it sounds great. So back in 1963, Hurricane Beulah, big nasty hurricane, is forming in the Gulf. They fly in, they dump their silver iodide, and suddenly the innermost ring of winds weakens by 20%. And they say, wow, we did it.
We've done it.
And you know what happened?
No.
Right after, a new ring of winds formed around it and contracted towards the middle.
Right.
And they thought, maybe something's up. So they tried it a couple more times. They kept noticing that at some point, that inner ring of winds would weaken and a new one would form around it, a new eye wall. And by the 70s, we realized that would happen anyway. It was something called an eye wall replacement cycle. Every day or two, in a hurricane, you get kind of the inner ring of winds to weaken, and a new one forms. It's like a snake shedding its skin. It sheds its eye wall, and then a new one kind of envelops it and sort of tightens. And the tighter that new one gets, the stronger the hurricane will be.
So they thought it worked, but it was just part of the natural process.
Yeah, and by the late 70s, they said, you know what? This isn't really working. Let's try researching hurricanes instead.
Yeah, Popeye.
Yes. So Popeye is something completely different.
Yeah.
Now, one big issue that we have with conspiracy theory folks is that they sort of conflate things that don't really go together.
Right.
So they conflate cloud seeding with hurricane modification.
Or cloud seeding with chemtrails.
That too. Now, we can seed a cloud, but think about the scale of a cloud versus the scale of a hurricane. You have a hurricane which expends the energy of 10,000 nuclear bombs, or a little fluffy cumulus cloud. Now, the idea of cloud seeding is that we're taking moisture that's already up there and just getting that moisture to fall. The goal of cloud seeding is to get those droplets to coalesce onto something, to put a little teeny particulate up there, like silver iodide, get them to coalesce and fall. So, like in Dubai, they do that, and it works a little bit. They can't create moisture.
They had floods recently because of that, right?
No. So they had floods, but that was an entirely different idea. So that's kind of the scale argument we're getting at. The floods were caused by something called a mesoscale convective complex, a big flare-up of thunderstorms that stalled and parked over the area, courtesy of antecedent weather conditions. What Dubai does is say, hey, we don't get enough rain. We need the rain for our infrastructure. There's some moisture up there, but it's not falling. Let's try to get this cloud to drop its moisture. And they fly up there, They go through the cloud, they sprinkle some silver iodide, and you get a little bit more moisture to fall. You get a little bit more rain. You're not able to create storm systems.
What happens to the silver iodide?
It's infinitesimally small.
Wow.
It's, all raindrops form around something.
Right.
To get rain to fall, it has to kind of gather on something, whether that be a pollen particle, whether that be dust in the atmosphere, whether that be a salt aerosol, anything like that. So the purpose of the silver iodide, they're incredibly small. That would be more a question for an atmospheric chemist. I can say that the scale that they're doing it at is just not enough.
Right.
So listening to this guy, apparently, obviously, he's trying to debunk the theory of being able to control weather. And this is just me, and y'all let me know what y'all think. But I hope, first, let me say my Renaissance grandma was saying that weather is not the only thing that we need to be worried about that's falling on our gardens, but she was saying that what about all this white stuff spraying in the air by the planes being dropped on our garden? And I hope that that video helped. But going back to this guy and his explanation, it just reminds me, the whole while he's talking, all I keep thinking about is that teacher on the Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. He's going out of his way to explain away things. But to me, all he's doing is saying that, the term that they use, this term is not what you call it, but this is actually what's happening. And then it's just happening on a smaller scale. So, yeah, I just can't get with him because he's saying, that's what what they call it, but scientifically, this is not what it's called, and this is what's happening, and it's not happening on that large of a scale. If it does happen, it's happening on a very minute scale, small scale, to where it doesn't even cause any effect. It doesn't even cause any changes. So for him, he's very textbook. The guy before him was actually giving us proof of explaining what we're actually seeing and what's actually happening. Whereas to me, this guy, you're just regurgitating what out of a book, out of a textbook, or what you were taught. So yeah, I'll let him continue to speak. But you guys, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. It could just be me. So cloud seeding, they're adding poison for the water to attack it, and it's falling on our gardens. Yes. And according to this guy, now he says, well, I can't confirm or deny that. That will be another question for a different type of scientist. I'm not that type of scientist. But from what I've seen on their research, it's not enough an amount to cause any problems with you ingesting it. In other words, he didn't. He smoked it, but he didn't inhale. So what will they find out about how dangerous the silver iodine is in the earth and us humans? That's a good question, Sylvia. If they even trying to test it. And I'm pretty sure they have. And they will probably won't disclose their information until later. Welcome in, Fresh and Fire. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a member. I appreciate you. Heading out, but I'll catch you on the replay. No problem. Thank you. Thank you. I thank you for your time. So let's see what else he gonna say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's another question.
But Popeye, you asked about.
Yes.
Yeah,
Vietnam.
So Popeye, between like 67 and I think 72, they said, hey, what if we could cloud seed and get more thunderstorms in Vietnam to dump moisture on the outsides of monsoon season? Their goal was to essentially fly the airplanes up there, sprinkle some stuff, and make more rainfall on kind of the edges of monsoon season. So a few weeks beforehand, a few weeks after, because if you can interrupt the enemy's infrastructure, if you can cause low water passings to be impassable, if you can get roads washed out. So that was their goal. There wasn't really a good sort of, follow-up after to see how well it worked. Theoretically, it can work. Theoretically, it does work. It's been put into practice in Dubai, not to the scale that a lot of conspiracy theorists think. And the idea of doing that to a cumulus cloud, a little fluffy cloud, or even a single downpour versus doing it in scale to a hurricane, just two completely different things.
When you say people conflate, I find that interesting because so people are saying, you're saying like on a very small scale, we did some modification experiments during Vietnam.
So we can essentially get water that's already up there on a small scale to come down.
It's in the cloud.
Exactly. We can get that to come down and we can cause a little bit of precipitation. But on the scale of a hurricane, for starters, we know there's not an issue with water up there that's not coming down. All the water in a hurricane, for the most part, comes down and falls out. We don't have the means to steer a hurricane. The flow that affects a hurricane is so vast that nothing we could do would meaningfully manipulate, change it, etc. One of my favorite conspiracies, somebody wrote into me and said, the government's definitely controlling it. Hurricanes only hit red states. And I said, let's think about that. You're telling me that you're surprised that more hurricanes hit Florida than Connecticut. I mean, you don't have to be a meteorologist to see why more hurricanes will hit Florida than Connecticut.
Or, Oklahoma, Texas, kind of coming up from the Gulf.
Right.
Now, that's a great segue. So, we're talking about like a cloud and putting some, some stuff into it.
Yeah.
So the water,
precipitates,
and so it comes down a little bit.
Yeah.
Fine. Hurricanes are like 10 atomic bombs.
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah, so 200 times more energy than all of mankind can produce.
So when you talk about that, you're like, okay, doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, why is it, so to go back to your people saying, of course, and it only goes to the red states, not only do they believe it's happening, then they believe we have the technology to do it.
Okay, I want to just stop there and just kind of comment on what he was saying. Like, he denies that they can't control him, but you're admitting that you can make you may not be able to actually take control of the hurricane and steer it like you're playing a video game or driving a car, but you can create the conditions to make it follow a certain path. So lie to me without lying to me. That's what he doing. Like, he going all around it. Like, yeah. Like, I need you guys to be aware and see this and put on your glasses and your hearing aids and hear what he's saying. Marvin's gonna say, maybe I don't understand. So they do have the power to manipulate rain over LA as it's burning down. Okay, Marvin is Ox. Okay, they got the power. They got the power to cause more rain to come down, but they ran out of water to stop the fires. But we got the power to manipulate to make rain, and they didn't. Yeah. Look, they would say, y'all better open up that eye. You better look with that eye and see what you see.
They believe that you can pinpoint it, and also they bring up things like, and I'm going to check my notes, you check your notes, everybody check their notes. They talk about Operation Popeye, but then, and we've talked a little bit about this.
I know where you're going to go with this. HAARP?
HAARP. What is HAARP?
So HAARP, it's called the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It researches the ionosphere, so about 30 to 600 miles above the ground. Way high up there, the upper part of the atmosphere. It's where you have a lot of free electrons. It's where radio waves propagate. Oftentimes the aurora borealis is up there. So essentially it's like a big radio transmitter in Alaska that sends up signals way up there and researches how they behave. They've been doing that for years.
Why?
It will continue. It's useful for scientists to understand the upper atmosphere in terms of the electric structure of the upper atmosphere for things like space weather, for things like the northern lights, even signal propagation. But I don't know how the public or how these conspiracy theorists became fixated on this one little thing, which is so ironic because it's research on the atmosphere. weather doesn't happen up there. Weather happens in the troposphere and the stratosphere within pretty much the bottom 10 to 15 miles of the atmosphere. Just vastly different layers. Radio signals don't have the ability to affect the weather. That's like saying, oh, I turned on my TV today, my clicker, my TV remote made a thunderstorm. It's just so, I don't want to use the word asinine, but it really is.
Why do people believe that it's controlling the weather then?
Because people realistically don't know what they don't know. I could very easily, and anyone could very easily, throw together some sciencey sounding words and string them all together
just like
and
you're doing.
Convince the public of anything.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna let y'all go back and finish watching it, watching the rest of it. Oh, we may come back another day and finish watching it, but I'm gonna stop right there because I want to get y'all to see another video, parts of another video that shows you what's going on in today's present time. But yeah, this guy is just basically doing what the powers that be, how they try to explain it to you. It's not what you actually see. See, this is not actually connected to this. See, it's a peanut, but it's not peanut. It's peanut butter, but it's not peanuts. It's peanut butter. So yeah, I need y'all to see. I need y'all to see how they are playing in front of our face and laughing at us. It happened in all cities, all new cities, Australia, LA, and Maui. Yep. Look, David, no such thing as going to the moon. Oh, we gonna say that for another day. Like, yeah, we gonna say that for another day because they said that yeah, we went to the moon and somebody was up there filming it, but who was holding the camera? They say nobody was holding the camera. It was a camera attached to the aircraft and stuff. But that's for another day. Hey, Nikki, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Nikki, they giving me a peanut butter say, but it's not peanuts. It's don't call it peanut. It's peanut butter. It's not a peanut. That's how it is. Yep. Yep, David, you know what it is. You know what it is. So let me show y'all what's going on present day. Give you a present day explanation. Let me stop sharing this screen and give y'all a present day explanation, which ties into a member here in our community, Drea, and how she's feeling and the things that she's feeling where she is now. And I don't want us to get confused to think that things are only happening in the United States. Where she is. It's happening all in different parts of the world. But I'm just happy for her that she's in a place where she can be healthy. I am so happy for her. Okay. Listen to a bit of this. And I'll be sure to post these videos, links to these in the in my community tab so you guys can see.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Planet Earth under siege as the paradigm of total insanity hurtles toward the grand finale. Weaponizing Solar Geoengineering. That's the title of a new report from theecologist.org. The report continues. Solar geoengineering, if weaponized, for the record, that happened 80 years ago, has the potential to deepen global inequality and escalate conflicts worldwide. Really? Who would have thought? Stop. Not, quote, has the potential to deepen global inequality and escalate conflicts worldwide. Rather, it has long since done exactly that. An absolutely obvious covert weapon of control for those who pull the strings, aka the money printers. bring populations to their knees, and blame nature. More from the Weaponizing Geoengineering report. An influential coalition of scientists and billionaires and technocrats has emerged with an ambitious proposal to solve the growing severity of the global climate crisis, the deployment of solar geoengineering, aka SG, or solar radiation modification, SRM technologies. Their mission is clear: to alter the entire climate system in a desperate bid to halt the relentless advance of global warming. The article continues, will the adoption of solar geoengineering give industry and other polluters a convenient excuse to maintain their business as usual approach? Stop there. Short answer, absolutely yes. Business as usual till the brutal, bitter end. Just engineer a chemical ice nucleation cloud seeding blizzard in locations like New Orleans and Florida, the first such recorded blizzards in history in these cases, and no one will care that the same regions promptly rebounded to all-time record high temperatures, which was the case this week. Engineered winter weather is one core aspect of climate disruption operations. Mask the true damage already done to the climate with temperature whiplash chemical cooldowns, even if doing so actually worsens the overall long-term warming, along with completely contaminating the entire biosphere. Continuing with the Weaponizing Geoengineering report, the Royal Society of Chemistry's scientific assessment, along with various other reports and articles, indicates that the implementation of stratospheric aerosol injection could result in numerous negative consequences, such as heat waves, droughts, ozone depletion, and disruptions to weather and climate patterns. Really? Spewing tens of millions of tons of toxic nanoparticle elements into our skies and then manipulating those elements with powerful microwave transmissions might cause all of that? Who could have imagined? Correction, has caused, is causing, and will continue to cause all of that.
So I want to pause this to make sure that you guys are following along what he's saying, that the powers that be are trying to combat global warming. Everybody is aware that global warming is here, it's happening, and they're just trying to do things to combat it. But the things that they are doing is making it worse. And so we're feeling the effects of it. Like when they do something, like he mentioned, they're making it cold in some places for however long, but then when those cold temperatures leave, the effect of that, then you got it's extremely hot after that, because you're trying to manipulate weather, and then you're trying to manipulate nature, and nature comes back and has to, equalize things back out. Somebody's not really figuring that part out. They're just trying to do a quick fix, and you're not really looking at the repercussions. And that's probably why they are not presenting the idea to the masses, because you don't want other people to present the other side or the downside of what you're doing. You're just looking at, let's fix this for now and we'll worry about the effects later. Well, people wouldn't agree to that, which is why they're not asking for permission to do these things, because nobody would agree to what they're doing. Let's see. David said, history is repeating itself. You are definitely right. Now, if this was fake, why would this footage be so old? He talking about the moon, y'all. They are controlling the weather, the food, and now the people. Yep. They are called the alphabet people, David say. They create the problem and give the fix. That's bad business. Yep. Can't fight Mother Nature, man. Every time. They will lose. Every time. Every time. Says, yep, they cause the problem and then try to be the hero and so-called fix it and try to make themselves look like the hero. When all they have to do is just stop trying to come up with decisions yourself for a quick fix, and you're causing people are suffering. People are being unalived as a result of what you're doing. And they don't care that we lose. We lose 500 million people. It's 4 million people in the world. It's okay. We don't need them. But you don't have the right to decide whether their life matter or not. And that's the issue. And that's why I want you guys to be aware, because to them, some of our lives doesn't matter. Some of us are disposable, and they can do what they want without asking for us, asking for our input or asking permission. Could they do this? And this video is talking about things that has been happening for the past couple of days. There's a lot of, well, past couple of weeks. There's a lot of people in our community that has experienced this fog, this mysterious fog, these things in the sky, and then after being sick, family members getting sick, animals getting sick, your crops are not germinating, planting stuff, and it's not coming. Think about the stuff that has been happening to you over these past few months and the irregularities in your life that has happened, and connect that, see if that has some connection back to what has been going on. I just need you guys to be aware, be more aware, and pay attention. Even if you don't believe it, just be aware of it. Most of can't feel bad energy because we screwed up, been lied to all our lives, right? Yeah, it's just you just can't reach. But those who are on the fence and that still can be reached, I'm just trying to put it out there and try to give you the information because it's there, and I want you to know it. And I don't want you to be unaware and just be out there not knowing and causing harm to yourself and others. So I'm gonna play a little bit more of this video. We probably do about 10 more minutes, and then that'll be it.
More from the report. Stratospheric ozone depletion contributes to higher levels of UVB radiation reaching Earth's surface, which can adversely affect human health, marine and terrestrial species, causing DNA damage and raising the risk of cancer. Stop again. What is this report omitting? UVC radiation, which metering proves, conducted by geoengineeringwatch.org, by the way, with state-of-the-art equipment and a former NASA contract engineer who was probably the world's expert in this arena. He recently passed away. But this metering proves that UVC is now bombarding the planet's surface. Please search and view the ozone destruction section on the homepage of geoengineeringwatch.org. This is need-to-know information. We're already down to only approximately 30% of the ozone layer remaining. Climate engineering operations are the single greatest factor depleting this essential for life protective layer, not hairspray cans, as we were told. Functional collapse of the ozone layer is nearly upon us, and if this happens, all terrestrial life would soon follow, aka total collapse. Next excerpt from the
Okay, I don't know if y'all heard that, but there's only 30% present day 2025, 30% of the ozone layer that is left. And what they are doing is the things that they're doing is still destroying it. And I do remember what he said, what they were saying us by using hairspray and all of that, it destroys the ozone layer. But that wasn't true. It wasn't us destroying it. The things that they were doing to try to combat global warming and other things was destroying it. So at this point, we only have 30% of the ozone layer left. And at the rate we're going, if you go ahead and continue to listen to this video, by 2030, it's over with. Won't have no more protection. That's just 5 years from now. Just let that sink in. And if we don't have the ozone layer protects us from the sun, if we don't have that protection, what happens? My Renaissance grandma says, "Yep, they caused the problem and then try." Yeah, I think I read that already. Yeah, I read that already. Hey, G Hud, welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. One time for G Hud. Growing with Hudson, yes, and you all better wear some sunscreen. We all have to wear sunscreen. SPF 1000, dress like the Arabs. Yep, because we don't have that protection anymore back in the day. Back in the day, you know, us melanated people could probably get away with not wearing sunscreen, but not now. Everybody needs to be wearing sunscreen. Sylvia says in the scripture, Revelations destroyed by fire. Yep. And it's coming up on us. It's coming up on us. The current administration don't believe none of this. We will burn. Yep. We will. I believe they believe, they just denying it. They don't want everybody else to know so that they can save whom they want to save if they think they got a plan to save or avoid it. But yeah, it is what it is. So I would encourage you guys to go and finish the rest of these videos. It's a lot of good information. I'll try my best to come back another day this week and we can look at it together and discuss it some more. But I just had to give you that information because it was inspired by one of our community members, Drell's Healing Garden. And if you know, where she left from, where she moved from, that's one of the areas that has been really sprayed, really highly chemicalized in their environment recently. And if you go and watch her video that she did, her live that she did today, it explains, it's really proof that this is going on. If you don't believe it, go watch the living proof that she gives you. Okay? Sylvia says that's why the muskrat tried to go to Mars. Yep. Because it's, according to data, 2030, there won't be no ozone layer. I wear coconut oil because those sunscreens has too many chemicals in it. Yes. My Renaissance grandma is giving y'all another alternative to those sunscreens because, yeah, we do want to be careful with the chemicals that they add to it. Coconut oil is a good option. David says it looked like it. We in troubled times for real. For real, for real. And I mean, we got a chance and had a chance to turn it around, but you know, we can only do so much, and we can encourage people to grow in their area. And if we can get the world to turn around and create their microclimates in the area, it won't be so bad, but it's hard to get people to listen, and it's hard to get people to reprogram their minds. So I just want us who are open-minded and those who are willing to see that, we can do something. And we don't have to just stand by idly and get burned alive. If they decide that we're not part of the 1% that they want to save, we can save ourselves because you could have been growing all your life. I mean, growing for the past few years and created a microclimate in your area to the point to where whatever is supposed to happen could possibly shield it from happening where you are. But if you just stand by and do nothing, well, you're going to burn up just like everybody else because nobody's coming to save you. You got to save yourself. So I encourage you to encourage those around you to keep growing and continue growing so that you guys can create a microclimate where you are to help save yourself. Let's see. Sylvia says, greedy people kill the planet. Yep. And that's most certainly, most definitely what happened. What is happening. Miss Kathy says shea butter can be used also as sunscreen. As we stop talking to each other. Yep. And that's why I'm grateful for this here, for this platform. That's how we've always learned. Yep, by talking to each other. And my Renaissance grandma is amen in that. She says, yes, shea butter, she used that in her products as well. So y'all support my Renaissance grandma. Her line is on Etsy. It's Miss V's collection. We'll have to figure out materials that can survive sunscreen. Yep. Yep. Because we need it. We need it. And my Renaissance grandma, um, check out her products. It's things that you'll want to use from her. If you haven't stocked up on it, you better stock up on it before it's too late. David says beeswax as well. And my Renaissance grandma says she doesn't work by itself. Add coconut oil to the shea butter. So we have someone in the community that has products for you to purchase so that you won't be caught with your pants down when 2030 comes. So continue to do what you do, gardening family. Gardening family. Continue to grow your own, make your own, eat your own, and encourage other people to do it so that when these times do come, we will be prepared because we already see that nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's trying to save us. We out here on our own. Let's continue to talk to each other, like David said. Let's continue to spread the news to each other, and let's continue to prepare and prep so that we will be ready for whatever comes. Okay? I love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for commenting and watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Peace, love, and blessings, everyone. I will see y'all in these YouTube streets.